Anyway, so this is Boycott Pride 2025. Let's see what I think about this.
Boycott Pride 2025.
Pride has become a big party full of woke idiots and straight allies.
Everything that the community is going through right now, as far as people not liking them, as far as us losing rights at alarming rates, which I'm gonna look into because I still don't know what rights we're losing. I really don't, and I'm not being silly when I say that.
I can do every single thing a straight person can do. I can get married, I can adopt.
That is kind of a point. You do kind of wonder what rights, but then, I don't know, trans people are treating it as if like puberty blockers are a right for trans kids to have. And what we call a human right seems kind of meaningless anyway. Like when people say X is a human right, like what does that actually mean, you know?
Adopt kids, I can buy a house, I can buy a car, I can have a job. Is there something I'm missing?
But apparently we're losing rights.
And I'm not even gaslighting them.
And then also there's been a rise in hate crimes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But the thing that's kind of fishy about that,
I wouldn't say he's more conservative, more frustrated with that Biden fella. Fair enough. I'm not pro-Trump. I think a lot of the stuff around him and democracy is like, you know, the Jan 6 stuff, etc. Like it's pretty, it's a bit yikes for me. I wouldn't like, I can't see myself if I got frustrated with like Starmer. I can't see myself running to the Tories or like Reform personally. But then I also don't know this guy's story, so you know, I'm not trying to judge him. It just from the outset it seems he's a more conservative figure, which, you know, might influence his perspective. But you know, I need to watch. I was gonna say something and I can't remember what it was. I think it was something like Pride's in a weird place because it kind of feels like gay people more or less do have all the same rights as like straight people, and it's more like the trans people now that are the ones complaining. But hey. You know, it's supposed to be for everyone and simultaneously not for a whole lot of people as well. Like, Pride is quite exclusionary, should I say, these days.
I can adopt kids, I can buy a house, I can buy a car, I can have a job. Is there something I'm missing?
But apparently we're losing rights.
And I'm not even gaslighting them.
And then also there's been a rise in hate crimes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But the thing that's kind of fishy about that,
The one thing actually I will say with what I said about the Trump thing is, I guess if you're frustrated with Biden and you're American, there isn't really other options. I mean, people don't really vote like libertarian and stuff, so.
There's a rise in hate crimes, but you also lowered the bar for what's considered a hate crime.
I think I just got gay bashed.
There was just that gay man not too long ago that was like, I was at Sprouts.
I was just here at the Sprouts in Culver City.
And this...
I wasn't listening that closely, but I'm guessing what he's saying is that we're expanding the definition of hate crime, which I agree with. Like, it's pretty pathetic watching someone sit there being like, I just got hate crimed. There was this meme that was going around. It was something like, you know, hate crimes against trans people have been reported like 1,000-something% more than they were before or something, which sounds bad until first off you remember that it's what's been reported. And second off, you remember that hate crime can be anything from like assault to someone misgendering you. So, you know, I mean, we see plenty of like trans people who literally will, you know, go on Twitter, find examples of what they're calling hate speech and like report that kind of thing. I think that was another fucking Sophie Mollyism. I need to stop talking about her, but she's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. She's a UK wannabe politician, attention seeker. Wait, she had oh fuck, I wish I had it now. She had a protest that only she attended, and she was there for like 10 minutes, then left apparently. Anyway.
Old man.
This older guy.
Said, back up, I'm not gay.
Said, don't get too close, I'm not gay.
And then that guy acted like he was Kunta Kinte and just got whipped into being Toby.
Let me hear you say it. What's your name?
Except for he's gay and white, so there's a good chance his name actually was Toby.
Kunta.
But I'm...
Wait, was that like it? Someone was like... Wait, seriously? There's not more of this? I mean, I'm gonna have to take him at his word for that, but like... If it's just, don't get too close, I'm not gay, like... That's the most non-hate crime ever. But I shouldn't be surprised because I see this in my own community, if that's what we're calling it, all the time. So, like, everything's a hate crime now. And Wes Streeting banning puberty blockers is democidal, or whatever the fuck they're saying. I don't know.
I'm supposed to act like that's a hate crime? There's a fat chick that identifies as non-binary.
And what have y'all done for men's mental health?
Oh my god, I hate this person. I think they're a teacher or something. And like, they present all these like gender concepts in the most like infantile way possible, I guess, because they want kids to get on board with their shit, which is really weird to me. I don't like this shit being marketed towards kids. I don't think kids are old enough to really understand. Like, you've got the potential for like kids to decide they're trans and then go on puberty blockers and then HRT and then have surgery at a pretty young age by the time they finished going through that, you know, early 20s. That's a lot of time to reconsider that whole decision that you made when you were a child. But no one seems to care about that, you know? No one seems to... It's all very well, like, when you're an adult, if you detransition, you did know what you were getting into, hopefully, because hopefully you were told by the doctors in the clinic. But like a child, can a child make that decision? I can make a decision at 25, which is what I did, to become sterile, and I'm fine with that. I don't regret my transition at all, you know, 9 years later or whatever. But I didn't make that decision as a child. So this person seems actually insidious. Excuse me. This person seems actually like insidious to me nowadays. Like it really grosses me out in a way that it didn't used to until I really started thinking more about this stuff.
Awareness month this month, huh?
Not too long ago, she did a whole video about the fact that she got fired.
I was recently hate crimes for being queer, and as a result of me
I got fired. I was hate crime for being queer.
being hate crimes for being queer, it ultimately
They can never just say what happened. It's got to be, I've got to rephrase it in a way that makes it ambiguous, but also makes it sound as bad as possible. This is why we need to stop, like, expanding the definitions of every fucking word.
led to me being fired from my job as a high school substitute teacher.
Fat and disgusting. Hate to be mean, but it's what it was. But she got fired for posting thirst traps from her teaching job and then tried to make that seem like a hate crime.
Why are you lying?
Okay, guys, these aren't hate crimes. So
You're not doing us any favors in any way, shape, or form with the LGBT community when you lie about why you got fired.
We're tired of being told to just eat less.
I guess it is a lie, but like, she's not even like being, I don't know. Fuck, it's like, it is a lie, but it's not a lie at the same time, because they're choosing to lump it in with hate crimes and stuff. I don't know, it's a weird one. I really hate the way these people do this shit, man.
And move more.
Introducing Juniper, the medical way to lose weight.
if you're saying there
Also, I have no idea why I always get the weight loss one. I see that one like a good few times a day. I don't need weight loss personally. If you do, fair enough, I don't.
there's a rise in hate crimes, but I'm also seeing with my own eyes that the bar has been lowered for what you consider a hate.
Yes, exactly. Fucking exactly. Okay, so far I'm on board. Like I said, the MAGA hat is not for me, but I'm on board with what he's saying. That's completely true.
Hate crime. Is there really a rise in hate crimes, or is there just a rise in what you consider hate crimes? And is that anything I'm gonna...
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I started transition in 2015, and I'm only 34 years old, but I feel like a complete fucking dinosaur. Like, what has come since then it's got like no bearing on what I think I am and what I was seeing around me at the time, you know? It's completely bizarre. I don't feel any attachment to like the LGBTQIA community, you know, because I don't know what the fuck it is. It's changed into something completely different since my day, I guess.
March about. There was also a guy I saw that
I just got fired for being hate crimed. Listen up and buckle up, because this one will knock your socks off.
he was working in a
Oh,
department.
Brad Palumbo. I watched one of his videos earlier, but it was about Destiny. So we won't go into that right now, because I'm going to talk about that later. But yeah, hate crimed. What was the hate crime? What actually happened? Maybe they'll tell you, maybe they won't. But the idea is that you don't question it and you just go along with it. You a hate crime? That's awful. How could someone hate crime you? It's terrible that transphobia exists. It's really quite, you know, it's really quite insidious to me.
Store.
It's JCPenney, the beauties.
He got in an argument with the customer.
She had dark hair, big back, about 50.
Oh, I wonder if he'll show. There was something from my city a few years ago, like some trans woman in Starbucks that was like the manager or something. someone wasn't called a they, and then this woman like flipped out, this trans woman like flipped out at the person that didn't call this non-binary person a they. It was mental.
Maybe 45. And
that was considered a hate crime. JCPenney still fired you. So a hate crime was committed on you at work. How much of a hate crime was it if you were rightfully and legally terminated and you didn't have legal recourse? I think what's happening is,
again, obviously bear in mind, we're seeing like small clips of like people's TikToks and stuff. I don't know what other context they go into and stuff, but you know, the basic premise of what people are calling hate crimes these days, like it's been expanded beyond any measure of reason, you know.
The community doesn't know what a hate crime is anymore. So people that want to tell...
That is very true. No, the community has no idea what a hate crime is. I think if an actual hate crime happened to like a modern trans or queer person or whatever, I don't know they wouldn't know what to do, I feel like. I don't know if they'd know what to call that. Pronouns were also kind of obvious and not demanded. Yeah, there was some that gave themselves away because the voice didn't feminize yet. But even then, they were called she based on how they were. Yeah, well, I mean, like the extremists on both sides are wrong about pronouns because people use them based on what they see. It seems like a no-brainer that if you want to be called a she, you should probably look like a she, or at least try to. But nowadays, it's where it's all about identity. It's just, well, that's what I identify as, and I can look how I want. And technically that's true, but you're probably not going to get called a she. Like, let's say that this person called themselves like a trans woman, which is really not an unrealistic thought at this point. Not that person specifically, but someone who looks exactly like that. Like, no one's going to call them a she. I know so many like supposed trans people that are like cis women that use he, they pronouns and look like women and then complain that no one calls them a he or a they. It's like, I think there might be a fairly obvious reason for that, boo, you know?
Me, well, you're saying everything's better for LGBT people, but there's been a rise in hate crime and a rise in hate speech. You getting misgendered is not hate speech. I'm sorry you don't look like a girl.
But girl, come on, I'm wearing a dress.
I'm sorry.
I am wearing a dress.
That they didn't know you were a boy and they thought you were a fat lesbian like the rest of us did.
That's not fair.
I'm sorry.
Why is it still raining?
But that's not a hate crime. That's in a lot of cases a mistake. That's in a lot of cases something that you need to work on. The fact that you're not...
I agree with everything you're saying here.
Properly portraying what it is you're supposed to be is not a hate crime. Once again, what am I marching for? What is the parade about? Also, if we're going to be preaching as LGBT people that pride is for kids,
children belong at Pride,
then we should show them, since all eyes are on us, we're the ones telling everybody, bring your kids to Pride. And when I say we're, I don't mean me, because I'm not included.
It's really, really, really simple with Pride, okay? If you want kids to be there and think kids deserve their place in Pride, then cut out the weird nudity shit. Cut out like the sex shit. It's really easy. But we can't do that. We want to have both. It doesn't work that way. And no wonder people are turning on this whole thing. Like, to me, it looks insane. Like, in the UK, at least, we don't tend to have these, like, weird nudist fucking... What am I trying to say? These, like, nudist sections are like the parade, or, like, people in just full-on bondage gear and like nothing else, or like men twerking in their underpants whilst looking in kids' eyes, which is fucking bizarre. Like, why anyone would want to do that, I don't know. My friend, Pride Transsexual, would admit she was born a bloke, but hard to see or hear her as a man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of view it as trans women are trans women. Trans women were born male, and that's what I am. I prefer if people call me a she. I can't control what people say. That's pretty much it. I mean, you know, I have enough stuff in my life that it really doesn't matter to me, like, at all if someone's, like, hostile towards me, because I just don't really care too much what they think. I have enough other people around me that are, you know, sensible about this shit, so...
Included in that. I maintain that Pride is for adults, and Pride is for adult...
I don't necessarily agree, but it either needs to be child-friendly or it needs to be for adults. And at the moment, the kind of stuff you're seeing in like San Francisco Pride, I think it was, and like other stuff, you've got someone with like a fully erect dick hanging out and someone's like holding it and stuff. You can't have that at a Pride, you can't have that at a family-friendly Pride event. So they need to either decide whether it's family-friendly and rethink whether it should be held in public, whether there should be fucking BDSM people, all that shit, or they just need to make it adults only, you know? Like, it should be obvious, but there's people that really wanna have both things, and then just be like, well, why did you take your kid to Pride then? It's like, I don't know. What was the video I watched? There was... Oh, I forget who it was. They watched, there was like a mother with her 2 girls, and this one girl was like pretty obviously saying how weird she found like all the nudity and shit. And like with BDSM, it's like, I wouldn't want to be the parent that's trying to explain to my kid what that outfit is and what it represents. Well, it represents people fucking. I mean, you know, what else is there to it? That's what they use those outfits for. To be honest, this issue with saying it should be for adults, as it is a public event, kids will see it anyhow. Yeah, that's why I think if it's an adult-only event, they need to rethink whether it goes through the public, you know, whether it's in a public place, should I say. For me, I don't think it will be that difficult to make it kid-friendly, but the problem is, it kind of seems like the people organizing these things are not very trustworthy when it comes to that, because they seem to have no problem with whatever the fuck's going on in America at the moment. And unfortunately, what tends to happen in the UK is we tend to take a lot of influence from there, like increasingly so. So it does worry me that it'll get worse here as well, but maybe the backlash will kind of get on top of it first, you know? Maybe there won't be a Pride Month 2025, hopefully, I don't know.
Activities. I have never been at Pride and thought to myself, you know what this needs? Is a bunch of kids running around. I see the naked guys over here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not that Pride ever needs, like, kids running around everywhere, for sure. I don't know. There's 2 options, that's the way I see it. And it's on the people that run these things to pick one before things get so bad that we end up getting cracked down on. That's kind of how it goes. You know, people take it too far, it gets cracked down on. Or we could be the first people to crack down on it ourselves to a much presumably safer degree than what the government or the police would be doing, which would be a lot harsher, you know? I attended 80s gay and lesbian front marches. There was none of this. Even Pride events were one day. Yeah, I mean, when was the last time I went to Pride? I think it was 2022. I went to Pride in Portsmouth. And, like, that was honestly fine. It was the same kind of, you know, the parade and then the sort of little festival that you get. You know, you get to chat with, like, the stall people, watch some entertainment and shit. It was pretty good. Like, when I look at what's going on in America, it still feels, like, very alien compared to what we have now. But will what we have now be what we have forever? We don't know.
The dicks on bikes, the topless chicks, the man in the dog cage. I never looked at all that stuff and thought, let's introduce kids to this. But the community wants to maintain that Pride is for kids. Okay, well then make it kid friendly. Don't do what you did 2024.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Yes, based. Yes, make the decision. Just pick one. Stick to it. Don't try and do both and then make stupid arguments like, well, it's only adults that sexualize things. Like, should we not consider whether we should be normalizing, like, adult men being naked or in sex outfits around kids, you know? It baffles me because we have such a stick in our ass, like so many of us, like LGBTs, about being labeled as, like, pedophiles and stuff. And it's not that I don't understand why that is, but why then would you want to run your Pride events this way? It's sort of like you're encouraging it. And, you know, lots of us aren't, like, on board with it, but people treat Pride as if it speaks for the whole community, so.
And 2023 as well, where you knew people were watching us and you still continued to flaunt it in front of the kids, which meant flaunting it in front of the cameras, which gave them the ammunition they needed to continue to perpetuate the stereotype that gay people are groomers, which we fought against for so long because there was a
There was transsexuals here and there. Those saying there weren't any there weren't any there at all, mistaken, but it seems to me as a straight person supporting their mates. Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, of course, yeah. Sorry, my brain is dying. Let's keep going.
lot of propaganda.
Then during lunch, Ralph showed him some graphic pictures. Jimmy knew he shouldn't be interested, but, well, he was curious.
Yeah, does it not feel like we're kind of recreating some of this now? I don't know.
What Jimmy didn't know was that Ralph was sick. Ralph was a homosexual, a person who demands an intimate relationship with members of their own sex.
Years leading up, that's one of the oldest tropes about gay.
Ralph was generous and took Jimmy many interesting places and did many nice...
I have a feeling he's going to say what I've been saying for the last however many minutes, that we really shouldn't be courting, like, we shouldn't be courting the image of being a bit Nancy if we don't like being called pedophiles. Which I don't want to be called a pedophile because I'm not one, so, you know. It should be pretty simple. Make a choice, stick to it. Pride events, there you go. It's easy. It's that easy. If you can't make the choice, then let someone else run your fucking event. Both sides don't help with the revisionism. Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Nice things for him. He bought presents.
I think one thing that definitely does bother me is when people, like, kind of apply modern concepts to, like, history and stuff. Like, I'm really not sure that trans as we understand it today, or as we understood it 10 years ago, if we're making a distinction there as well, like, we like to say they've always existed and stuff, but I don't know how true that is either. I think to an extent we kind of apply our modern concepts to things in history when, is that appropriate to do? I don't know.
And even gave him money. But payments were expected in return. You see, Jimmy hadn't recognized Ralph's approach soon enough. When Ralph first asked Jimmy to go fishing alone, he should have discussed it with his parents or teacher. Finally, Jimmy told his parents, and they reported it to the juvenile authorities. Ralph was arrested, and Jimmy was released on probation in the custody of his parents.
So we fought against that for all this time, and now you have this old man on video that's waving to kids.
And every single time kids walk by, you're enthusiastically waving at them, trying to get their attention.
Completely naked.
Oh, I need to find that. I've not seen that video. Crazy. Yeah, he's saying exactly what I'm saying, and I agree with him.
As they walk by in the parade, trying to get their attention.
You're trying to get kids' attention, you're waving at.
Oh god, that's disgusting. I think I saw a clip of this, but not with someone interviewing him. Oh, it's disgusting.
Why are you trying to get their attention, old man? Stop being disgusting. You know what you're doing. We all know what you're doing. What I'm getting at is everything you're hearing from the LGBT community right now that are reasons that we're supposed to continue on this pride journey, what we're supposed to be fighting for, really is self-inflicted at this point. Let's talk about another right. Everybody was complaining about don't say gay. But if you actually paid attention,
sorry, I'm just gonna go back because I had a thought and then I lost it.
To continue on this pride journey, what we're supposed to be fighting for, really is
The only thing I ever hear about, like, why is pride still necessary? Why is Pride Month still necessary? Like a whole month. The only arguments I've heard so far is because homophobia still exists, you know? They did exist, there just weren't as many. Like, there were probably only 15,000 transsexual alive at once in the 80s. Yeah, I think what I normally see is, like, people taking it way further than that and trying to queer, like, historical figures based on modern concepts that didn't exist back then, I think is more what I'm talking about. I think, like, trans people, it's kind of a, fuck, what am I trying to say? It's kind of a 20th century thing, I guess. I'm not sure.
Inflicted at this point. Let's talk about another right. Everybody was complaining about don't say gay. But if you actually paid attention to don't say gay, it's like, let's not talk to kids about LGBT before it's age appropriate. Also, I as a gay man wouldn't want anybody talking to my kids about LGBT anyway. Even
I find this conflicting because, like, when I went to school, like, most kids I knew were, like, homophobic, and I got called gay, like, constantly because I was always, like, a bit effeminate. But, like, especially with the trans stuff, like when Keir Starmer was saying about wanting to ban, like, teaching gender ideology in schools, I actually kind of agree, because it feels like, you know, if we teach these kids about them, they're more likely to take on, like, transgender identities, which, first of all, completely inflates their suicide risk, like, straight off the bat, because trans people are just more likely to kill themselves. But they're also, like, I'm trying to say here, we're kind of encouraging them to like make those kind of decisions about their identity at like a much younger age, which, as I've said before, can lead to, you know, they get enough positive they get enough positive reinforcement for that identity, the way they express it. They end up staying on with it. They take puberty blockers, they take hormones, they get surgery when they're in their early 20s. Like, that's incredibly risky to me. Like, I wouldn't be comfortable putting a decision like that on a child. I think children should maybe not be learning about this stuff straight away. I don't know. I'm trying to get that argument straight in my head. But hopefully that made sense. Assigned at birth is also for intersex. It's observed at birth for trans. Oh yeah. Yeah, I see more people saying observed at birth. I don't know. I mean, you know, whatever sex you are is ultimately what sex you are. Whatever words or like sleight of hand people use to distance themselves from their sex, it's still kind of is what it is. And to me, I don't think gender identity or whatever you're putting it as, whatever your gender is or that doesn't generally trump sex. And when you get to places like sports where trans and women's rights are colliding, it feels like probably the women's rights are the ones that should be maintained. Even being gay was hardly discussed in schools post Section 28. I don't think there was any. I don't remember talking about like LGBT issues. I went to school. There was none in my primary school. I went to a really small village place. My secondary school, I don't remember anything like that. And this was like 2001 to 2006, so not hugely long ago. Whether they banned discussion of sexuality or not wouldn't make a difference. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Even if I knew they had the best intentions, because a lot of people don't even know LGBT history. I was just watching a video the other day where this drag queen was saying
2019 marked the 50-year anniversary of the night.
This looks like I'll have one of every upper, please. But as a drag look. It's not for me, but fair enough. I guess the effect is quite striking. I'll give her that. Jesus Christ, it's like it's making me uncomfortable.
Marsha P. Johnson, a black trans woman, threw a brick.
Was she even trans? I'm also pretty sure she didn't throw a brick. My own gay history is not amazing. I do need to learn more, but I'm pretty sure those two things right away are not true.
At a cop car, and was the beginning of the revolution.
That's been disproven.
Yeah, a little bit. Amy Winehouse is a Dutch prostitute on meth, coke, and ecstasy.
Even by Marsha P. Johnson's own words, she actually wasn't even there.
I don't know if it's true that she wasn't there or she just kind of rocked up at some point, but it's revisionism. It's revisionism either way. So
when it actually started, she didn't get there until 2 a.m.
I was uptown. I didn't get downtown till about 2 o'clock. Because when I got downtown, the place
okay,
was
no, we're on the same page. Fair enough.
Already on fire, and it was a raid already.
And that story is so not the way that it went that they.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, that's another thing I mean by people kind of applying like labels retroactively. Someone was arguing with me because there was some picture of some gay pride where they were calling themselves queer, that meant queer existed back then as it does now, when they were just gay. Like, queer meant gay, but in the same way that like the F slur or whatever meant gay, you know? But then, you know, you try and explain what you mean, that, you know, it's a modern concept of queer that doesn't really match the whatever it was back then. It's like people can't expand their brain that far, so I don't know. I'm still trying to find people that know a bit more, that can actually defend like the pro-trans side a bit better, because to me it seems so weak at the moment, and I just kind of stumbled into this. You start having questions no one answers, then it just becomes, you know, you become frustrated with the whole thing, but no one understands that, so.
Talked to gays that were actually there at the time, and they say
that woman was Stormy DeLarvier, a lesbian who worked as a bouncer at the time.
We have 4 independent accounts who said that.
According to transsexual I spoke to, Marsha would have been told to do one when the old criteria was there. Okay.
This woman's fight with the police is what tip the scales and set it all off.
She called out to the crowd, "What are you doing? Why are you just standing there? Why don't you do something?"
But so far, there's been no conclusive proof.
But this is the history that they want to teach. Or you're going to what? Teach trans and non-binary? Well, what if I don't believe non-binary is really a thing, which I don't? Why do I want you teaching my kids about something that I don't even think is a real thing?
I'm still on the fence about non-binary. Excuse me. I think there probably does exist like lesser forms of gender dysphoria where not everyone experiences it as strongly as everyone else does. And I can kind of fit non-binary in that way. But when we start getting these like super specific like definitions of obscure like gender sexuality mixes and stuff, like it's just something someone made up. Like you found a list of, you know, hyperanalyzed genders and sexualities and picked one and now it's your identity. Like, okay, cool. I don't know. I think the way it's expressed and the way it's kind of understood by those that do believe in it doesn't really make any sense to me. And I don't think, like, we treat them like they're some kind of marginalized group, but like, how can you just like opt into being like marginalized like that with no real effort, no real impetus to do anything? Like, at least if you're trans, like, you probably want to like show some commitment by actually looking like the gender you're going into, whereas non-binary doesn't have that kind of impetus, you know?
When it comes to all this stuff with transgender and dysphoria not being necessary and all that other stuff, why would I?
Technically, that's true. Technically, you can transition without having gender dysphoria. However, why would you want to? What I find is, again, people don't really engage with that question, so.
I want you to teach my kid what I consider to be inaccurate information.
I don't believe it's anything to do with transsexuals, maybe uncertainty about their bodies, but it's not trans in my opinion. I more or less agree. I'm still working it out to an extent because I feel like I'm trying to make some pretty crazy shit fit the real world. I don't even know why, because most of these people fucking hate me, so I don't know. That's kind of the best thing I can come up with, but for me, it seems important to like separate non-binary and trans. Like, you know, you can be both technically, I guess, but trans has to mean like transsexual in my opinion. And then the more identity-based stuff, like they can be the Q in LGBTQ, you know, but we use queer, as like a catch-all term, and it's also in the acronym. Gender dysphoria, I feel, should be mandatory. Yeah, I think for being trans, yeah. I will say technically you can transition without dysphoria, but you'd have to wonder why someone would want to, you know? And no one ever gives me a good argument for that. I've never met a trans person with no dysphoria. And I don't know what their reason would be beyond things like, well, that's just what I identify with, which is basically saying, I am that because I am that, you know?
Even when it comes to gay, there's always been the debate whether or not being gay is nature or nurture. So even that is up for debate. So exactly what are you trying to teach these kids? That gay people or...
Yeah, that's the other thing. The idea that like trans is just an identity that you just pick up. But at the same time, people say that you're born with said identity. It really makes no sense to me. I don't even really know what gender identity is, honestly. To me, it seems much more accurate that we all have our own like self-identities of who we are. And that, yeah, your gender is included in that. But these kind of super specific like gender identities, I have no idea what they're supposed to be. I have no idea, like, this just seems like self-fanfic to me.
Or trans people or non-binary people are out in the world, because there's a place they can figure that out, and that's out in the world. They don't need a teacher to teach them that. And furthermore, it's not a right that I'm going to march for. So what are we marching about? What are we fighting for exactly? What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ.
I said his name right, great.
Comedian in the world. Okay, if you want to be part of the Boycott Pride 2025 movement, all you have to do is...
The transvestites took over and some, yeah. Like, trans communities are mostly just non-binary people, and if you don't like that, then you'll get the shit bullied out of you until you leave, so it is what it is. This is why more and more trans people are getting sick of this shit. So it's just going to keep happening.
When Pride season starts coming close and people ask you if you're going to go to Pride, no, you're not going to Pride. You're not going to support that.
That's me as of quite recently. my band got kicked off of Trans Pride in my city. We were only told like by a public post, which was nice. But yeah, I don't want to go to Pride anymore. But then that was going to be like the last one I did anyway, because I was already sick of it. I hate Pride Month. I clearly don't have the same ideals as most people that show up to Pride. And whilst I'm okay with that, it doesn't feel like other people are. And it doesn't feel... I watched... was it Jack Jewell? I watched him interviewing people at London Pride. And it very much felt like a lot of people couldn't really quite say as much as they wanted to say. And couldn't really quite voice their opinions for fear of offending someone, maybe. So it feels like Pride is not a free speech kind of thing, you know. And I mean, you know, I also saw the video of Blair White she was either kicked out or basically hounded out. So the best ice was in the West. There were some nice ones, but they were perverts for the most part. Yeah. I don't think I came across too many. Like, I've come across like drag queens and stuff, but I think that's quite a different thing. So, I mean, I used to sort of refer to myself as a transvestite, but that was before I started transitioning.
Hell no. When you see the different companies rolling out their Pride merch like they do every June, you let them know you're not in support of that. Whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you see it, you give them the Dylan Mulvaney treatment. You let them see the same way that Bud Light had to see. When it comes to other LGBT people, we're the ones that really need to put our foot down. Unfollow GLAAD on social media. Unfollow HRC. Human Rights Campaign and GLAAD have been doing us no favors for years now. I can't even tell you the last year they were actually helpful to what is the community and not just trying to ensure job security. Trevor Project could go too. Trevor Project only supports certain kids in the LGBT community. Our LGBT activists and representatives...
He didn't go into more detail about that, but that's pretty fucked. Like, I wonder... So it's for young LGBTQ lives, so I wonder what their criteria is, I guess. Maybe I should look into that sometime.
Representatives are only here to serve a certain amount of the community that will keep them working. And that's because they're smart enough to know that the majority of LGBT people really don't need anybody else's encouragement or validation to be who we are. Most of us have in one way or another found our way to being self-sufficient enough and having an...
Drag queens are just performance when they took it off. They were done. Fair enough. Yeah, I think maybe I'm not quite old enough or wasn't really going to like Pride events at the time. So maybe I missed the kind of transvestite phase. So instead we've just got the non-binary phase instead. I'm still waiting for the trend to die down. It'll happen eventually. They've all got DID now, but they're still like, they seem to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Integrate more things into this identity thing instead of like trend hopping nowadays. So I guess they're probably going to continue the queer shit and then add in the other weird shit, you know, DID, etc.
Enough self-esteem.
It's called self-esteem. It's esteem of your motherfucking self. How the fuck can I fuck up how you feel about you, simple bitch?
No matter what the outside world was trying to tell us or push on us, that it's really not necessary like that, and we don't even need activists for any particular reason. What exactly do the activists do except for throw parties for themselves? I've been to the GLAAD Media Awards. Janet Jackson was the honoree that year. I wonder what they paid to get Janet Jackson to come out.
No, my first name ain't baby, it's Janet. Miss Jackson if you're nasty.
It was just this very simple thing of like,
I wonder what they paid so that they could hang out with Janet Jackson just for a minute. That's what Pride is about. Pride isn't about uplifting the community. A lot of those businesses that actually buy booths at Pride, because if you guys don't know how the festival works, when you get to the actual festival, which you will pay money to get into the festival itself, not the parade, but the actual festival, when you get into the actual festival, vendors have bought booths, and those are LGBT businesses. So if it really was about the community, in my opinion, they would act as a service service to the community and actually showcase some of these businesses rather than paying the exorbitant amount of money that they pay to have Kylie Minogue come out. So consider that next time you're supporting Pride.
I get what you're saying. I think the ones I've been to have always been smaller than that. What was it? I went to Bristol Pride in like 2013, 14, something like that. And they had like the remaining members of S Club. It was like the one that got in trouble for being racist, and then two of the guys or something.
What exactly is your money going to? Is it going back into the community? Because I don't think it is. And is anybody really worried about it as far as it being part of a political movement? Because the other side, when it's not the stupid people like Queers for Palestine, the ones without lives, then it's the hot boys that are just on the circuit anyway. And they're just looking for another place to party in different cities to get laid in. So I don't really know how Pride is a service to the community is what I'm getting.
Well, they talk about like visibility and stuff, but to me, visibility is like a double-edged sword. And I think that that's part of why trans stuff has become this hot button topic, is because we pushed for a lot of visibility. And it's helped more people understand trans people and not judge them, I guess. But it's also put it in front of more people that are not going to be as sympathetic and are not going to support trans people, I guess, you know? So to me, it's like a double-edged sword. But I think that's what they're saying. It's like, it's about visibility and like celebrating, I don't know, marginalized people. It's hard. I'm trying to justify something I don't even believe in myself. So who fucking cares, quite honestly.
So if you actually love gay people, if you actually have LGBT friends, boycott Pride 2025. And this has been on my mind for...
I'm already boycotting it, more or less. I don't know if I'd ever like say it out loud to anyone, but I'm not fucking going to Pride anymore. Maybe if they fix their shit, you know. Maybe if they start making it a place where people can be themselves instead of just telling everyone else to be themselves and then complaining when someone bees themselves in the wrong way. Maybe. I don't understand why Pride is being used to support Israel v Palestine. I could have sworn they both hate each. Yeah, Palestine has just become... It's another huge hot button topic. We've got MPs that were voted in literally because they are about Palestine, which is insane to me. I would never vote for someone like that. But yeah, it gets... I guess it's like the progressive thing. Like the progressives are pro-Palestine and lots of them happen to be the LGBT people, so it all gets rolled into one, and then all of these people are also like socialists and communists and all this other shit, sexually liberated and like polyamorous and stuff. I think it's just the LGBT thing is just part of the progressive shit, I guess. So it all gets kind of lumped into one because we're all intersectional now, I guess.
For a good minute now, because the LGBT community went extra hard and not in a good way. Like, instead of actually taking people's feedback, we are now being run by true perverts and mentally unhinged. And I think
this is what I keep saying. Like, there was this panel I watched, like, right when I started, someone called Heather Herbert, and they were watching the video of that guy that was like shaking his junk around in his like twerking, you know, like in his underwear, like old man in front of like kids and stuff. And this Heather Herbert person, who's like a trans advocate, activist, whatever, was doing everything to avoid like talking about who's like running these things and allowing these people to do this kind of shit. It was like, you know, oh, well, what about the parents? Why have they brought their kids to a Pride event and all this other shit? Like, why doesn't anyone want to hold to account people that run these things and say that this shit's okay? I had the same issue with Trans Pride in London. I think it was last year or the year before. There was that woman, Sarah Jane Baker, that got up and told people to punch TERFs in the face. And the organization defended her. Like violent rhetoric, like defended her. There was a huge cheer. Like, it sounded like someone probably was going to go and punch a woman in the face that day. Thankfully, no one did. But if that did happen, what the fuck would happen then? Like, that organization would, like, cease to exist, I would have thought, you know?
think if you were to talk to other everyday gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transsexual, not only would they tell you that they don't think Pride represents them anymore.
Pride is no longer something I want to claim to be part of.
I think that they would tell you that they don't even feel comfortable at gay Pride anymore. It's gotten so far.
I paused it a bit late there. I just wanted to say, I don't know if I watched that Ariel Scarcella video, but I super agree with her as well about Pride.
Away from what it was actually supposed to be. Most of us don't even have a connection with it. There's nothing to be proud of about what's going on at Pride. And I know that some of you guys are going to be like, but I have friends that are LGBT and I want to continue to be supportive of my friends. Trust me, this is tough love.
Support them then. Be a good friend. Look out for them. Just be a force for good in their lives. Who cares about fucking Pride anymore? Just be good to your friends.
And a lot of your friends, if they're actual gay, lesbian, bisexual, transsexual, not transgender, they'll tell you what we were originally trying to get from Pride and raising visibility for what used to be known as the gay community, because that's the way it started, was just the gay community was originally what it was. I told you guys about family on another video. If you didn't catch that, that used to be the code that we used to use was family, but then it became the gay community, and then it became the gay and lesbian community, and then it's grown into what it is now. And originally, all we were looking for was for people not to unalive us, and we were looking to have the same rights as everybody else. But it definitely was.
It's weird that that's still what people are saying now, when things have moved a hell of a lot since then. I was trying to... Who was it? I keep going back to like arguments I have on Twitter, because that's mostly where I have conversations with the more pro-Pride crowd, right? But it was something like... Someone was trying to suggest that the climate around gay people back when Stonewall happened, like in '69 or whatever, is basically the same as what it's like now. As in, like, people are just as, like, overtly homophobic and racist and shit like that now as they were in, like, the late 60s, which is insane to me. I didn't live through the fucking 60s, I don't know. But my instinct tells me that it was probably a lot worse back then. And there's been a really long and slow fight to gain acceptance. But it's really easy to be like a 20-year-old and just tell me how things were in the 60s, I guess.
It wasn't about asking the straight world to accept everything about us and cheer us on. It turned into that, but it was first started.
I don't think that's even true. A lot of like these, especially the radical kind of LGBT types, they don't want like acceptance. They seem to want to exist independently of like straight people, which to me is crazy.
Off as tolerance, and it was like, okay, yeah, tolerance, don't unalive us. And then we moved to acceptance, and I was like, okay, well, everybody around me already accepts me, but I guess if the rest of you think that's something that you need to push, I don't know, maybe you have bad people skills, but I'm still cool with it. I don't care. Then it became about...
I'll say when it comes to acceptance, like jobs that I've had, like especially like office jobs and stuff, no one else ever gave me shit for being trans. When I worked in a bar, I got shit for being trans because, you know, I was serving drunk people in like a working class Tory kind of town. But in terms of like colleagues and stuff, like the kind of normal people you interact with because you joined a job and they're the ones working there, like none of them seemed to really give a shit. You know, I don't think I drew attention to myself in that way. I just kind of existed there and I have a deeper voice and stuff like that. And I got on with my job and I did well. You know, like, it feels like people are mostly accepting, and there's so much exaggeration of the lack of acceptance that so-called cis people have for us, you know?
Encouragement and validation. And it was like, validation? Why do I need other people to validate me? And that's where I really got lost. And when I say the thing about perverts and weirdos, I don't know if you guys saw the footage from San Francisco. There were a lot of people that were completely naked at San Francisco Pride.
Is it legal for nudity to be presented in front of kids?
Nudity is legal, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw a lot of the same footage that he's showing.
Within certain boundaries.
And I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this too, but that's always been the way San Francisco is. Like, there's a really well-known race called the Beta Breakers, and that's not even a gay event, but there have always been people that will be completely naked running in that race, or naked with a cape, stuff like that. That's the way the Bay Area is. Then there's also in the Castro, which is the gay area, they would always walk around the Castro naked, just all the time.
Wait, so the gay people... Like, the people in the gay area have no choice but to have to, like, have these people around them? That's nice.
naked in the Castro, and everybody was cool with it. So them going to San Francisco, they knew was going to be an easy mark, because San Francisco will pick any excuse to show its ass, literally. But if we're going to be preaching as LGBT people that pride is for kids, well then make it kid friendly. So this is why I say that if you really do like what you considered the LGBT community to be, or what it was when a lot of you got introduced to it, because that's when it was still fun. And that's another thing. All the fun has been lost from the community anyway. So I don't know why we have this parade and these festivities that go with the festival, when really the whole community has lost their sense of humor. And that's the reason I'm tired of this anyway. The gays and the lesbians, we charmed our way into acceptance. And then this new group come in and start trying to...
Yeah, we're not trying to charm our way into acceptance anymore. We're trying to force our way to acceptance.
Shit on everybody, and mainstream society is like, hey, where'd this ugly attitude come from? This wasn't the gay that we bought into. And yeah, I know some people are going to be mad at me for saying a lot of this, but this is the way that I would talk to anybody, especially when I'm talking to people that I love. And that is a part of what everybody misses with me. I am not at all against what we are. When people tell me I'm self-hating, it's like, I'm not self-hating at all. Hating myself isn't the problem. If anything, I hate what you guys have turned this movement into. That's what I hate. I do love what my community used to be. We all understood that we were trying to get somewhere, and we knew, like they say, you catch...
I think there's still like good community to be found, to be clear. Like my experience really is, I used to go gay clubbing a lot. It would have been like 2009, 2008 to 2012 kind of time. And like, you just kind of meet whoever you meet out, and like, you make friends with people, and there's gays, there's lesbians, there's all sorts. And it's kind of similar now. Like, you get weird like chasers and stuff that hang around and like try and chat you up when they get you by yourself, as I found out. But there's still, you get like people that just go out and they're just part of the furniture, and you just meet people. Like, it's still possible. I think that these kind of curated, like Pride, LGBT specific events, they're not really the ones to go to if you want to meet people and be around community, unless you like this shit for some reason. I don't know.
Catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And we all knew that as a community. And so we collectively charmed everybody into accepting us. And then these sour kids that really haven't dealt with anything and don't even know what a hate crime is came in and fucked everything up. And that's why I'm saying, don't support fucking Pride at all. Fuck all these people. Go back to discriminating as you were. Anyway, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Boycott Pride 2025.
They bought into his bullshit.
Yes, that was Ty Rivera. Yeah, I agree with him. Relatable. Pretty much the way I see it. You've got two options for Pride events. You either make them adult only, or you make them kid friendly and have some standards. That's literally all there is to it.